there, and welcome again to Beer in Canada. I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And today we're going to check out a new beer from an established macro brewery, really. This is the new Alexander Keith's Tartan Ale, coming in at a whopping 6.1% ABV. Now, my understanding is this is Keith's kick at the can at a Scotch ale. So this should be probably a darker color, not like a porter or stout color, but probably somewhere in the copper to a darker amber, as well as it should be a lot more malty than hoppy. So why don't we just open this right up and get right into it.
See what this is all about.
Well, it's
coming in a little bit dark.
Alright, we've kind of got a copperish color coming in right away here.
Gracias.
With actually a really thick kind of off-white head. But again, another fairly carbonated beer. But
yeah.
I don't know if you can see this, is kind of an orangish, well, very orange, copper kind of color. Sound about right to you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Fairly well carbonated. In fact, possibly too carbonated, but that's kind of what we often expect from a lot of beers. Especially those made by the bigger breweries tend to be fairly carbonated. They also generally expect you to drink them fairly cold. So let's get a nose on this and see what this smells like. Definitely a bit of malt in there.
Yes.
As expected, nothing really in the way of hops. Maybe a little bit.
Maybe. There's something there that's adding an almost citrusy kind of...
I'm curious what kind of hops they use for this then. Because that actually is a bit of a hop characteristic. You know what? I'm not really all that familiar with a lot of the Scotch and Scottish ale, so I'm not really sure how to compare this very well. I mean, I love some of the 80, like I love 80 shilling, which you can get in some of the local pubs, but for that it's a much more subdued maltiness. But
well, you're doing better than me. I don't have much exposure to the genre at all.
We'll go drink some 80 shilling, which is a very specific type of Scotch or Scottish ale. I always mix up the difference between the two. But let's give this a try.
Let's.
Cheers.
Ooh.
There's a nice mouthfeel to that. It's a little bit thicker than what I'm used to. Actually, that's
thicker, nice little smoky kind of thing going on there.
A lot of maltiness. Definitely some caramel malts in there. Kind of got that little bit of caramel sweetness that we were just discussing kind of off camera. Actually, that's not too bad at all.
No.
I'm not really getting too much in the way of hops, but that's a good thing for this style. What about you?
No, it's mostly the sweetness and that kind of a well, smokiness, as I said earlier. I sort of pick up on it.
You know, I'm not going to compare this, you know, or I don't really want to compare this to the 80 shillings and wee heavies and, you know, such that exist, but it measures up, I think, fairly nicely compared to Keith's attempts at an IPA.
Had to get the dig in, didn't you?
I've gone on the rant before. And much as I like to drink Keith's IPA, you know, too many people have heard my "it's not an IPA" rant, and it really doesn't really fit the style. This is much closer to the style I think that they're shooting for, though.
Again, I have to plead a little bit of ignorance of the style itself, but it certainly is. I could see myself enjoying a few of these.
I'm gonna have to pick up a 6-pack of this.
Got a little bit of sophistication to it, a little bit of something different, something not entirely mainstream, especially coming from a macro brewery. I am pleasantly surprised by that.
Mm-hmm. And even though I've had the rant on here at times, I really have nothing against Keith's or any of the macro breweries. In fact, I drink their beers quite frequently. But when we start talking about the style guidelines put forth by like the Beer Judge Certification Program, which is not recognized by everybody, but is recognized by home brewers like myself, as well as a lot of brewing competitions, you know, you start getting picky. But this I kind of like. Now, out of 5 rating, you know, I'm going to give this a 3.5. I think this is actually a decent beer with a little bit more focus, I think, on the malt and maybe a little bit stronger mouthfeel. I think they could actually push pretty close to a Scottish ale. Now, I'm going to throw out the caveat there that this is not a style that I'm an expert on. So.
And if you're not an expert on the style, then I am. I'm not even educated upon the style. But be that as it may, I do enjoy beer, and I'm gonna have to give it a 4. It's I find it something that would probably have something for everyone, in that it's something that if you're into the nuances of beer, you can certainly find something to enjoy there. But I think it's something that someone who is not as sophisticated in their beer drinking experience could pick up and enjoy as well.
Mm-hmm. And for something that's not a craft beer, this is outside some of the seasonals, which you can't really get outside of Halifax, or at least the East Coast. It's the Maritimes. I think this is probably the closest that Keith's comes to something that I would think of as a more crafted beer. This is actually kind of nice. I'm going to have to pick up some more of that.
I don't blame you. I might have to join you in that.
So check it out. It's available now. It's made its way out to, from what I understand, it's made it to the beer stores and LCBOs. You should be able to get it now. So this is, again, this is Alexander Keith's Tartan Ale. And thanks again for joining me, and thanks for tuning in.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Good stuff.